Usually I rest many hours after drinking a cup of mint liquor and watch TV film of a brother of a boy. But now I began to feel disappointed. First of all, because when I walk in the street, I can't avoid the movements in my stomach. And finally, it's very disappointing for me walking the street with such kind of disturbance. And the other is what I have in the throat, that thanks to God, it's only a little cough. But I realized that when I am doing something, if I arrive to a number of the something, a certain step is 13, I began to cough. Because in Spanish it's similar. And I was watching the clock that and began to feel worried about the lot of electronic equipment that every day I use in bad conditions. Like if it was a constant bad thing for my spiritual professional condition. For instance, the TV apparatus, the control apparatus, the clock that it have to be changed the hour and the problems with the hour. There are the main things are the TV and the control. But every day I have to make conscious that I can't repair it since 10 years ago. And the digital clock are with some controls, and I began to think about the tools that I always dream having a place to work in electronic, but this idea was always discouraged by my couples like Andrew or Charles. Very, very discouraged because don't know why, but always there were discouraging all wish of having a place with tools and a table to practice electronic, because some years ago when I still have that idea, I like very much. But always the men always try to discourage this idea, saying that the tools were not mine and making problems with the tools, making problems with all electronic things I do. And then I say, well, for a woman it's not a good thing to be fighting against the men because Krakowski was always jealous, Andrew was always jealous. The most of the men are jealous if women make electronic repairments. Not in the computer case, with email, with internet, there are not jealous. But in electronics are really very jealous. Then I say, well, because sometimes they explain that is that the women, the other women began to want to do the same, and it's really a problem for them. Because if they are seeing that I am making things that they can do, began to make problems. Well, but I think about these things and began to feel disappointed. Because each article I want to read, persons began to feel disappointed. The kids of the college, the women in the streets, and all began to make problems. And I began to take a lot of pictures with sun and lights, and persons began to feel disappointed. And some persons encouraged me to follow taking pictures. But I can't bear the disappointment of the other persons, like electronic, for instance, that I have to forget the idea of having my tools, my hours of repairing things, opening electronic things, or soldering, and because it's not in computer, because it's more easy for the other persons to do the same, to copy the same things. And encourage to make computer, perhaps because I am not a good managing computers, and then person felt well. And I began to feel disappointed because today the man who lived on the roof show me his sexual part, like wanting to say that I was making a bad thing of taking so many pictures with the sun and the shadows, because the color group architect that was in that kind was the profession of him, and that perhaps he did it without wanting to hurt me, but I don't know if it's always that I never can progress in no professional area, because persons felt very jealous. And I don't know how the other persons do, because it's very common that persons felt jealous about profession of the others. For instance, when I was taking pictures of the World Cup, the policeman began to make problems with my mobile phone, and a car beat me and threw me in the street. And I have just taken pictures in the Continental restaurant. And Charles told me that it's a bad thing to take pictures in the street, that it's not allowed. And I am very disappointed now because um, persons, some persons don't allow me to make an effort of climbing in the research community. For instance, with the happened with I was making the notes. I was making the notes of Alcatel to trying to understand the course and taking pictures at the same time. And some boys in the street tell me to take a picture in the middle of the street, and I obey. And then a policeman began to be went to say me well if I was drunk and that kind of things. Like wanting to say that I have to write in the Wikipedia and not follow trying to understand the course of Shikuma or the notes of the Alcatel, because like wanting to say that they have to know what just I have every bit of electronic knowledge. That is, it's the same like the persons and the women that are jealous and are wanting to do exactly the same. And that writing in Wikipedia, at first it seems to me a good idea, and because I realize the criticisms of Wikipedia help me to realize the bad things that my mother told me, because I realized that all the articles rejected in Wikipedia, they told me the reason. And then I realized that sometimes at home, I make some stories or began to tell things, and my mother, my sisters began to be disappointed and showed me that I was wrong. And the Wikipedia helped me to understand that they were right, because the reasons were similar, but the difference is that my family don't explain me. You are saying a stupid thing because there are not introduction to explain the audience what are you speaking about, or you are saying a stupid thing because there are not reference, or you are making a copyright law. In some aspect was a good thing to write to Wikipedia, but it was to a way of stopping me of understanding the notes of Alcatel, and receiving a lot of corrections. Of course, all corrections are welcome if a person is needing such kind of corrections, but sometimes it's only put the person in places to receive corrections of things that in real are not fundamental, are other things that have priorities. And I began to feel disappointed because I was taking pictures, and some persons is the same case. A group of persons encouraged to take pictures and to do some works, and other persons make the corrections or the putting me in a situation that is not good for me, because I am an old woman. I can do so much effort, intellectual efforts, receiving so many corrections, because it has for me no benefit, only that my mother don't shout me so often, or my sisters. But it's a good thing, because I could understand some strategies, but for other the other aspects, for instance, of making scientific papers or writing, it's for me a great effort to support the shallows by of the other persons. It's a great psychological effort, because I don't know how other persons do, because there are persons that make their works without saying anything and without commenting anything, and the things are well. And the real thing is that many persons make pressure to know what I am doing, what I am studying, on what I am working, and the only reason is to not to hurt me, but to stop me in the course of the works. And I began to feel disappointed, because the man who lived under my roof began to show, to make bad things, that persons began to approve him, and to say yes, she's wrong, and so. And the other thing is that my daughter bought for me some underclothes, but persons in the buildings are following and and make things to know where they are, if they are in a bucket, or if they are and now they are broken, and I feel very disappointed, because I have no money to buy. And I began to think to ask money for person, and began to think that if are expensive, but if they are not expensive, it's the same that nothing. I began to feel more and more disappointed. And then I began to think that I have not gone to the fever, and that going to the fever helped me not to feel disappointed for these things. But I remember that I accepted to the things that happens to me, because if sometimes one person made a good thing, and the good thing is paid with a bad thing for bad persons. And I have told God that I will accept that the bad pay because I accept to suffer the consequence of doing a good thing. And I realized that women that are alone, uh, because I don't like that the man live under the roof at certain hour, comes in a rush, saying your kids will not come today. Like if he had to do a bad thing for my kids. And I don't know if call them or not to call them because uh, sometimes I call them or not, but I began to feel worried about it. And I was so worried because I was walking in the street and having so activities in my intestines, and I don't know why it is something that is in the street, that is in the persons. When women pass near me and they are making it on purpose. And I discovered that there were, I just lay on the bed and began to think, why happens to me it in the street, that I can walk in the street when there are persons because began showed activities in my stomach and intestine. Then I began to leave my mind with the thoughts, and some thoughts appeared, and I marked the thoughts that began the activities. And one of the thoughts was the man of the truck, and all happened with the man of the truck. But the man of the truck was make something in my stomach the Christmas day, because he always turned around the streets, and they say that every day I will look at the truck, that the truck is broken, and every day I look at the truck broken, and it will be something. The other thing I go on with the free thoughts